Tae-sung Kim stood in the large room deep under Seoul. No one on the surface knew this place existed. Screens covered the walls, showing stars and a single bright dot moving closer to Earth. "Director Kim, the alien ship will reach orbit in 6 hours, said Jae-ho Park, walking up beside him. Her uniform was crisp, and her face was serious. Tae-sung nodded. "Is Protocol Wooden Horse ready?" "Yes, sir. All teams report green status." He turned to look at the main screen where a 3D map showed Earth's true face. The face no alien would see. Beneath the oceans, inside mountains, and under what looked like simple farms were humanity's real cities and technology. For over 70 years, humans had carefully hidden their advances. "Show me the facade status," Tae-sung ordered. A new image appeared. This was the Earth that aliens would see. Polluted skies, primitive satellites, radio and television signals that seemed to come from a young civilization just learning to reach for the stars. "Perfect," he said. "Our visitors will see exactly what we want them to see." Jae-ho handed him a tablet. "The surface teams are in position. Professor Yuna Lee is ready to lead the greeting party." On another screen, Tae-sung watched people rushing to set up a simple welcome area near Busan. They built basic structures and brought old-style vehicles. From space, it would look like humans scrambling to prepare for their first alien visitors. "What about our defenses?" he asked. "Hidden and ready," Jae-ho replied. "The lunar base is fully staffed. Our ships are powered down in the asteroid belt. The orbital platforms appear to be simple satellites." Tae-sung walked to a small table and pressed his hand on its surface. A hidden panel slid open, revealing a complex device. He placed his thumb on the scanner. "Director Kim, Tae-sung, authorization, Phoenix Rising." The device lit up. Voice and print confirmed. Quantum communication network activated. Around the world, hidden in plain sight, humanity's true technology hummed to life, but remained invisible. Energy shields could cover every major city in seconds. Weapons that could destroy stars waited silently. Quantum computers more powerful than anything aliens might imagine ran the calculations that kept up the perfect lie. "We've studied their transmissions for weeks," Jae-ho said. "The Navari present themselves as friends, but their language contains subtle threats. Just like the others we've detected over the years," Tae-sung said. "Always the same story. We come in peace, they say, but history says otherwise." On a smaller screen, he watched recordings from long-range probes. Planets stripped of resources, species working as slaves for the so-called Galactic Concord. Earth had seen enough to know what happened to truly primitive worlds when the Concord found them. "Director, why have we waited so long?" Jae-ho asked. "We could have revealed ourselves years ago." Tae-sung sighed. Humanity wasn't ready. "We needed time to build our defenses, to study them, to prepare for every possible outcome." He looked at the approaching ship again. "And to be honest, we hoped to find at least one alien civilization that wouldn't try to conquer or exploit us. And now we see what the Navari really want. Maybe they'll surprise us." He didn't sound hopeful. "Are the surface teams carrying the modified communication devices?" "Yes, sir. They look like simple tablets but can access our secure network." Tae-sung nodded. "Good. Tell Professor Yuna to proceed with the plan. She should appear excited, a bit scared, and very, very primitive." Jae-ho smiled slightly. Yuna was top of her class in quantum engineering. This must be hard for her. "We all have our roles to play," Tae-sung said. "Let's hope this is just a drill, and not the war we've been preparing for." But as he watched the alien ship grow larger on the screen, he knew better. The time for hiding was coming to an end. Professor Yuna Lee stood in the middle of the open field outside Busan. The morning sun was warm, but she felt cold inside. Around her, a team of 20 people waited. They all wore simple clothes that looked like what scientists and government workers might wear in old movies. "They're coming," someone whispered. Yuna looked up. A bright light cut through the clouds. The Navari ship was much smaller than their main vessel that stayed in orbit. It was smooth and silver, shaped like a teardrop. It made no sound as it landed on the field. "Remember," Eunice said quietly to her team. "Act amazed. Act nervous. We are seeing aliens for the first time." The ship's side opened. A ramp appeared. 3 tall figures walked down. They had light blue skin and large, dark eyes. They wore shining suits that seemed to move like water. The one in front wore a red symbol on its chest. Eunice stepped forward, her hands shaking. This part wasn't an act. Meeting aliens was still nerve-wracking, even if humans had been watching them for years. "Welcome to Earth," she said, using simple words. "I am Professor Yuna Lee. We are honored by your visit." The leader stepped forward. It was a head taller than Yuna. "I am Ambassador Rikta of the Navari delegation. We bring greetings from the Galactic Concord." Its voice was smooth and perfect, using a translation device. "We are very excited to meet you," Yuna said, adding a stammer for effect. Rikta smiled. It wasn't quite like a human smile. "We have observed your world for some time. Your progress is impressive for such a young species." One of the other aliens stepped forward with a small box. It opened to show a device that glowed with blue light. "A gift," Rikta said. "This is a basic energy converter. It will help you understand clean power." Yuna took it with wide eyes and gasped. "Amazing," she said. She knew this technology was at least a century behind what humans actually used, but she looked at it like it was magic. "It produces what you would call 5 megawatts of power," the alien explained slowly, as if talking to a child. "Enough for a small city." One of Yuna's team whispered, "Incredible. Right on cue." "We have much to share with humanity," Rikta said. "The Concord welcomes developing species and guides them to their place among the stars." Yuna noticed those words. Their place. Not an equal place or a place of their choosing. Just their place. Like the Concord decided where everyone belonged. "We would like to learn more about the Concord," Yuna said. "In time," Rikta replied. "First, we must assess your civilization's development level. We will need to visit your leaders, research centers, and energy production facilities." Yuna nodded eagerly. "Of course, we have prepared tours of our best facilities. All fake, of course, built just for this moment." The second alien spoke for the first time. "Your technology is uneven. Your communications are primitive, yet your understanding of physics seems advanced. We focus on different areas at different times," Yuna explained, a line she had practiced. "Our resources are limited." Rikta nodded, but its eyes narrowed slightly. "Indeed, most fascinating." As they walked toward the waiting vehicles, old-style cars powered by simple electric motors, Yuna noticed Rikta speaking quietly into a wrist device. She couldn't hear the words, but her hidden earpiece translated the Navari language perfectly. "Preliminary assessment. Potential Category 3 acquisition. Resources abundant. Resistance capability minimal. Beginning Phase 2 evaluation." Yuna kept her face neutral as she opened the car door for the aliens. Inside her pocket, her fingers pressed a small button 3 times. In the command center beneath Seoul, Tae-sung would now know. The Navari were exactly what they had feared. Not friends. Not partners. Hunters. Hyunwoo Choi moved silently through the Navari ship. He wore a suit that bent light around him, making him almost invisible. As Earth's top security analyst, he had trained for years for this moment. The aliens had invited a group of humans to tour their ship. While the other humans followed the guided path, Hyunwoo had slipped away. His real mission was beginning. He pressed his hand against a wall panel, a small device attached to it, bypassing the ship's security. The door slid open silently. Inside was a room full of screens and control panels. Hyunwoo moved quickly. He placed a small device on the main computer and waited 3 seconds. It copied everything. Too easy, he whispered. For a species that thought humans were primitive, the Navari didn't guard their secrets well. Meanwhile, at Seoul National University, engineer Da-hyun Kang sat across from a Navari scientist. They were looking at drawings of what the aliens called basic propulsion systems. "This is how our ships move between stars," the alien explained slowly. "The concept may be difficult for you to grasp." Da-hyun nodded, looking confused on purpose. But inside, he was laughing. The design on the table was similar to what humans had built 50 years ago. He saw a flaw in the cooling system immediately. "What happens here?" he asked, pointing to the flaw before he could stop himself. The Navari looked surprised. "That is the thermal regulation matrix. It prevents overheating." "But wouldn't it work better if—" Da-hyun began, then stopped. He had almost revealed too much. "Sorry, I'm just guessing." The alien stared at him for a long moment. "What is your background, Mr. Kang?" "I teach engineering basics to college students," he said, using his cover story. "I like to think about how things work." The Navari made a note in its device. Da-hyun felt sweat on his back. He had made a mistake. Back at the command center, Tae-sung was looking at what Hyunwoo had found. "This confirms everything," he told Jae-ho. "Look at this document." On the screen was a Navari report about Earth. It was labeled Pre-Guardianship Assessment. "What is guardianship?" Jae-ho asked. "Their word for taking control," Tae-sung said. "They plan to make Earth a protected world. Humans would work for them. They would take our resources, all while saying they're helping us grow." Jae-ho's face hardened. "How many other worlds have they done this to?" "At least 17, according to their records," Tae-sung said. "They call it guiding, but it's really slavery." On another screen, they watched as Ambassador Rikta entered a private room on the Navari ship. The hidden cameras Hyunwoo had placed showed the alien activating a communication device. "The humans are more advanced than expected in some areas," Rikta said to someone they couldn't see, "but still far behind us. Their planet is rich in rare elements. Their population will provide excellent labor." "When will you issue the terms?" asked a voice. "Soon. I've detected some inconsistencies in their technology. Some of their scientists ask unusual questions. I want more time to investigate. Do not delay. The fleet is already moving past their outer planets. If they resist, we must be ready to show force." Tae-sung turned to Jae-ho. "They have ships hiding beyond Saturn. Activate the long-range sensors, but keep them passive only. We can't let them know we can see that far." "Director," said a technician, "Professor Yuma has sent a new message. The Navari want to visit our best research facility tomorrow." Tae-sung nodded. "Tell Daejeon Complex to prepare. Full deception protocol." He paused. "And activate our defense systems. Keep them hidden, but ready." "Do you think they suspect?" Jae-ho asked. "Not yet," Tae-sung said. "But Da-hyun almost gave us away today. We're walking a thin line now. Soon, we'll have to choose. Keep pretending, or show them who we really are." The choice came sooner than he expected. 3 days after their arrival, the Navari changed. Ambassador Rikta called for a meeting with world leaders in New York. His friendly smile was gone. "The Galactic Concord has completed its assessment of Earth," Rikta announced to the room full of nervous-looking human leaders. "Your world requires guidance." The president of the United Global Nations looked confused. "Guidance? We thought we were discussing friendship between our peoples." Rikta's eyes narrowed. "Friendship is possible, yes, but not as equals. Not yet." He touched a device on his wrist, and a document appeared on the screens around the room. "These are the terms of your guardianship." The humans read in silence. The terms were clear. Earth would provide resources and labor. The Concord would control all space travel. Humans would work on Concord projects. In return, the Navari would share some technology and protect Earth. "This isn't partnership," the president said. "This is control. It is the natural order. Richter replied coldly. Your civilization is young. You need direction. And if we refuse? Asked another leader. Richter's face hardened. Then we must pacify your world for your own safety. You have 3 Earth days to accept our terms. Deep under Seoul, Tae-sung watched the meeting on a secure feed. When it ended, he turned to Jae-ho. It's time, he said. Activate protocol Wooden Horse. Final phase. Jae-ho nodded and began sending coded messages to facilities around the world. What about our people at the meeting? They'll play their parts, Tae-sung said. They'll argue, ask for more time, appear divided. Meanwhile, we prepare. A technician called out, Director, we're detecting energy readings in orbit. The Navari are deploying something. On the main screen, small objects appeared, dropping from the Navari ship. They positioned themselves around Earth. Weapons platforms, Jae-ho said. They're not waiting for our answer. They never plan to, Tae-sung replied. Contact Commander Soo-jin at Lunar Base. Tell her to prepare the fleet but stay hidden. And get me Professor Yuna. Yuna's face appeared on a side screen. She was still with the Navari delegation. I heard, she said quietly. What should I do? Keep them talking, Tae-sung told her. Buy us time. We need 24 hours to get everything in place. I'll do my best, Yuna promised. But they're growing suspicious. Today they asked to scan our oceans more closely. Deny them. Say it's about national security. Be diplomatic but firm. After the call ended, Jae-ho reported, the lunar fleet is ready. Our orbital platforms are still undetected. Global shield systems are at standby. And Hyunwoo. Still on their ship, his last message said the Navari are discussing military options. They have a fleet of 20 ships beyond Saturn, moving closer. Tae-sung walked to the center of the command room. Send this message to all hidden bases. The mask comes off at dawn. Everyone needs to be ready. On the surface, human leaders gathered for emergency meetings. News channels reported the Navari's demands. People looked up at the sky with fear. It was all part of the act. In homes across the world, families received coded messages. Military personnel disappeared from public view. Key scientists vanished from universities. The hidden human world was waking up. Tae-sung looked at the Navari ships on the screen. They think they're hunting us, he said softly. They don't realize they walked into our trap. Sir, Jae-ho said urgently, we're detecting energy spikes from the Navari platforms. They're targeting the Daejeon research facility. Already. Tae-sung looked concerned. They're moving faster than expected. Alert the facility. Tell them to prepare for visitors. What kind of visitors? Jae-ho asked. Tae-sung's face was grim. The unwelcome kind. 3 days after their arrival, the Navari changed. Ambassador Richter called for a meeting with world leaders in New York. His friendly smile was gone. The Galactic Concord has completed its assessment of Earth, Richter announced to the room full of nervous-looking human leaders. Your world requires guidance. The President of the United Global Nations looked confused. Guidance? We thought we were discussing friendship between our peoples. Richter's eyes narrowed. Friendship is possible, yes, but not as equals. Not yet. He touched a device on his wrist, and a document appeared on the screens around the room. These are the terms of your guardianship. The humans read in silence. The terms were clear. Earth would provide resources and labor. The Concord would control all space travel. Humans would work on Concord projects. In return, the Navari would share some technology and protect Earth. This isn't partnership, the President said. This is control. It is the natural order, Richter replied coldly. Your civilization is young. You need direction. And if we refuse? Asked another leader. Richter's face hardened. Then we must pacify your world for your own safety. You have 3 Earth days to accept our terms. Deep under Seoul, Tae-sung watched the meeting on a secure feed. When it ended, he turned to Jae-ho. It's time, he said. Activate protocol Wooden Horse. Final phase. Jai-ho nodded and began sending coded messages to facilities around the world. What about our people at the meeting? They'll play their parts, Tai-sung said. They'll argue, ask for more time, appear divided. Meanwhile, we prepare. A technician called out, Director, we're detecting energy readings in orbit. The Navari are deploying something. On the main screen, small objects appeared, dropping from the Navari ship. They positioned themselves around Earth. Weapons platforms, Jai-ho said. They're not waiting for our answer. They never plan to, Tai-sung replied. Contact Commander Soo-jin at Lunar Base. Tell her to prepare the fleet but stay hidden. And get me Professor Yuna. Yuna's face appeared on a side screen. She was still with the Navari delegation. I heard, she said quietly. What should I do? Keep them talking, Tai-sung told her. Buy us time. We need 24 hours to get everything in place. I'll do my best, Yuna promised. But they're growing suspicious. Today they asked to scan our oceans more closely. Deny them. Say it's about national security. Be diplomatic but firm. After the call ended, Jai-ho reported, the lunar fleet is ready. Our orbital platforms are still undetected. Global shield systems are at standby. And Hyunwoo, still on their ship, his last message said the Navari are discussing military options. They have a fleet of 20 ships beyond Saturn, moving closer. Tai-sung walked to the center of the command room. Send this message to all hidden bases. The mask comes off at dawn. Everyone needs to be ready. On the surface, human leaders gathered for emergency meetings. News channels reported the Navari's demands. People looked up at the sky with fear. It was all part of the act. In homes across the world, families received coded messages. Military personnel disappeared from public view. Key scientists vanished from universities. The hidden human world was waking up. Tai-sung looked at the Navari ships on the screen. They think they're hunting us, he said softly. They don't realize they walked into our trap. Sir, Jai-ho said urgently, we're detecting energy spikes from the Navari platforms. They're targeting the Daejeon research facility. Already. Tai-sung looked concerned. They're moving faster than expected. Alert the facility. Tell them to prepare for visitors. What kind of visitors? Jai-ho asked. Tai-sung's face was grim. The unwelcome kind. The Concorde fleet appeared from beyond Mars. 20 large ships, each bigger than anything humans had ever put in space, or so the Navari thought. Ambassador Ricta stood on the bridge of the lead ship. Begin the attack. Show these deceptive creatures the price of their lies. On the lunar base, hidden on the dark side of the moon, Commander Soo-jin Kwon watched the enemy ships approach. They're forming attack positions, her officer reported. Energy weapons charging. Soo-jin nodded calmly. Let them get closer. Wait for my signal. The Navari ships launched their first attack. Energy beams shot toward Earth, aiming for major cities. The beams hit the hidden shields and scattered into harmless light. No effect. A Navari officer reported, surprise in his voice. Their shields are advanced. Ricta's face showed shock. Impossible. Fire again. Maximum power. Back on Earth, in the Seoul Command Center, Tai-sung and Jai-ho watched the battle unfold. Commander Soo-jin is in position, Jai-ho reported. All defense systems are ready. Tai-sung nodded. Tell her she may engage, and contact Daejeon. Is his special project ready? On a side screen, Engineer Daejeon appeared, working furiously at a console. Almost, Director. The virus is prepared. I need access to their main communication network. You'll have it soon, Tai-sung promised. He turned to Jai-ho. It's time to show them who they're really fighting. In space, Commander Soo-jin gave the order. All ships, reveal and engage. Weapons free. The dark side of the moon lit up as hundreds of hidden human ships rose into space. They had been there for years, waiting for this moment. They were sleek and black, almost invisible against the darkness until their engines glowed to life. On the Navari command ship, alarms blared. Multiple ships detected. An officer shouted. They were hiding behind the moon. Richter stared at the screen in disbelief. How many? Over 300, Admiral. And their technology. It's beyond anything we've seen. The human fleet moved with incredible speed, surrounding the Concorde ships. They didn't fire immediately. Instead, a message came through. This is Commander Sujin Kwan of Earth Defense Fleet. You have entered Earth space with hostile intent. Withdraw immediately or be destroyed. Richter laughed. They're bluffing. No matter their deception, they cannot match Concorde firepower. All ships, attack. The Navari ships fired all weapons. Energy beams, plasma torpedoes, and gravity weapons shot toward the human fleet. Not a single shot hit its target. The human ships moved too quickly, their shields absorbing any energy that came close. Then the human fleet responded. Small missiles launched from their ships. They didn't look dangerous, but when they hit the first Navari ship, the result was devastating. The ship simply came apart, its atoms separating in a flash of light. What was that? Richter demanded, fear in his voice for the first time. Antimatter warheads, his science officer whispered. Perfectly controlled. That should be impossible. 3 more Navari ships disappeared in flashes of light. Others tried to escape, but found themselves trapped by gravity weapons that held them in place. Meanwhile, on Earth, Da Hyun finally gained access to the Navari communication network. I'm in, he told Tae-sung, releasing the virus now. Throughout the Concorde fleet, communication systems failed. Then life support began to flicker. Navigation systems sent ships in wrong directions. Some ships actually fired on their allies. What's happening? Richter shouted as his own ship's lights dimmed. We're being hacked, an officer replied in disbelief. They've taken control of our systems. In just 15 minutes, half the Concorde fleet was destroyed. The rest were disabled, floating helplessly in space. The battle that was supposed to subdue Earth had turned into a complete disaster for the invaders. Commander Sujin's voice came through again. Navari fleet, you have lost. Surrender or be destroyed. News of the Concorde fleet's defeat spread quickly across the galaxy. For the first time in centuries, a primitive world had not only resisted the Concorde, but had crushed its military forces. In the large meeting room beneath Seoul, Tae-sung looked at the screens showing reports from across space. Human long-range sensors, hidden for decades, were picking up unusual activity in Concorde territories. What are we seeing? He asked. Jaiho studied the data. Uprisings. At least 7 worlds that were under Concorde control are fighting back. They heard what happened here. How is that possible? We haven't broadcast anything. We didn't have to, said Hyunwoo, who had returned from his mission on the Navari ship. The surviving Concorde ships sent distress calls. They couldn't hide what happened. Tae-sung nodded slowly. So we've started something bigger than we planned. On one of the screens, a Navari face appeared. It wasn't Ambassador Richter, but a different Navari with lighter blue skin and a scientific insignia. My name is Elkin, the Navari said. I am the chief scientist of the research vessel Horizon. We surrender to Earth forces. Why are you contacting us directly? Ta-sung asked. Because I have been studying your world for years, Elkin replied. I always suspected there was more to humanity than others believed. The Concorde has lost its way. It was meant to unite worlds, not control them. Pretty words, Hyunwoo said. But your actions tell a different story. Not all Navari support the Concorde's methods, Elkin insisted. Some of us have questioned our path for a long time. What happened here may be the change we need. Tae-sung looked thoughtful. What are you proposing? An alliance. Many worlds will see Earth as a beacon of hope now. You could lead a new coalition, one based on true partnership. In another room, Yuna was examining data from the captured Navari ships. She called Tae-sung urgently. "Director, we need to broadcast this immediately," she said. "What is it?" "Evidence. Records of what the Concorde has done to dozens of worlds. Their resources stolen, their people used as labor, all hidden behind pretty words about guidance and protection." Tae-sung made his decision. "Prepare a transmission to all worlds within range. Show them everything." Within hours, the truth about the Concorde spread across the galaxy. On world after world, beings who had lived under Concorde rule for generations began to question their protectors. On the planet Kor, the local governor watched in horror as his people surrounded his palace. On Vex Prime, Concorde ships were forced to flee as defense systems suddenly turned against them. On Tellus, a world that had been mining resources for the Concorde for 3 centuries, workers seized control of the main facilities. Back on Earth, the president addressed the United Nations. "For years, we hid our true face from the galaxy," she said. "We did it to protect ourselves. But now we see that others need protection too. Earth will no longer hide. We will stand with any world that wants freedom from the Concorde." In space, Commander Soo-jin oversaw the capture of the remaining Navari ships. Most surrendered without a fight. "What do we do with the prisoners?" her officer asked. "Treat them well," Soo-jin ordered. "They are not our enemies. The system that controlled them is." In the Seoul Command Center, Tae-sung, Jae-ho, and Hyun-woo met with Elkin. The Navari scientist looked around in amazement at human technology. "How did you hide all this for so long?" he asked. "Patience," Tae-sung answered, "and understanding that sometimes appearing weak is the best defense. The Concorde won't accept defeat easily," Elkin warned. "They will send more ships, more powerful weapons." "Let them come," Hyun-woo said. "We're ready." But Tae-sung looked troubled. "No, we didn't hide our strength all these years just to start a war. If they want peace, we'll offer it. If they want war—" He paused. "Well, they've seen what we can do." The galaxy was changing, and Earth stood at the center of the storm. 3 weeks after Earth revealed its true face, long-range sensors detected something massive entering the solar system. "They're here," Jae-ho said, looking at the main screen in the Seoul Command Center. The readings showed over 50 Concorde warships, larger and more powerful than the First Fleet. Tae-sung studied the data. They sent their elite armada, led by Grand Marshal Vetric himself. "How do you know that?" Hyun-woo asked. "Elkin told us. Vetric is their most decorated military leader. He has never lost a battle." Commander Soo-jin's face appeared on a side screen. She was aboard her flagship near Jupiter. "Director, my fleet is in position. We can engage them near Saturn's rings." "No," Tae-sung said. "Let them come deeper into our system. We need them within range of our solar defenses." Soo-jin nodded. "Understood. We'll fall back to Mars orbit." On the lead Concorde ship, Grand Marshal Vetric stood tall and proud. His dark blue skin was marked with battle scars, and his eyes burned with determination. "These humans may have surprised our First Fleet," he told his officers, "but they face the full might of the Concorde now. No deception will save them." The massive fleet moved forward, weapons charged. They passed Neptune, then Uranus, meeting no resistance. "They're running scared," one of Vetric's officers said with a smile. Vetric wasn't convinced. "No, they're drawing us in. Stay alert." As the fleet approached Saturn, Vetric ordered scout ships ahead. 10 small, fast vessels moved forward. None returned. "What happened?" Vetric demanded. "Unknown, sir. They simply vanished." The Grand Marshal's eyes narrowed. "Full stop. Scan everything." Back on Earth, Da-hyun watched with satisfaction. "My dimensional phase traps worked perfectly," he told Tae-sung over the comm. "Their scout ships are now floating in a pocket dimension." "Can you do that to their entire fleet?" Ta-sung asked. "No, the energy requirements are too high. But we've made our point. They're stopping to reassess. Tai Sung turned to Jiao. It's time for Phase 2. Tell Su Jin to execute Operation Spear. In space, the human fleet suddenly appeared around the Concorde Armada. Not from the direction of Earth, but from behind them. The human ships had used artificial wormhole technology to position themselves in a complete sphere around the enemy. On his flagship, Vetric watched in shock as hundreds of human vessels materialized around his fleet. Impossible, he whispered. Their technology. A communication came through. It was Commander Su Jin. Grand Marshal Vetric, you have entered Earth space with hostile intent. We ask you one time to withdraw and recognize Earth's sovereignty. Vetric straightened his back. The Concorde does not retreat. Your trickery cannot save you from our firepower. Su Jin's face showed no emotion. We hoped you would be wiser than your predecessors. She ended the transmission. The space around Saturn lit up as both fleets engaged. The human ships moved with impossible speed, their advanced drives allowing maneuvers that defied normal physics. Their weapons tore through Concorde shields with ease. Vetric watched in horror as ship after ship was destroyed. What are they using? He demanded. His science officer looked stunned. Energy weapons we've never seen before. They're harnessing power directly from stars somehow. Retreat, Vetric ordered. All ships fall back to Neptune. But as they turned to flee, they found their path blocked. The space between Saturn and Jupiter was distorted, blocking their escape. What is this? Vetric roared. On Earth, Da Hyun explained to Ta Sung. We've created a temporary space-time barrier. They can't leave until we allow it. In space, Su Jin's fleet closed in. Grand Marshal, she said over the comm, your fleet is trapped and outmatched. Surrender now and save your people. Vetric stood silent for a long moment, watching as more of his ships were disabled or destroyed. Finally, his shoulders slumped slightly. The Concorde Elite Armada surrenders, he said, the words clearly painful. The battle was over. The most powerful military force in the known galaxy had been defeated in less than an hour. Earth had not just defended itself. It had changed the balance of power in the galaxy forever. 1 month after the defeat of Grand Marshal Vetric, ships began arriving at Earth from across the galaxy. They were not warships. They were diplomatic vessels from worlds that had broken free from Concorde control. In the grand meeting hall built specifically for this moment, Tai Sung stood with Yuna, Jeho, Hyunwoo, Su Jin, and Da Hyun. They watched as representatives from 12 different species entered. I never thought we would see this day, Yuna said quietly. For so long, we hid from the stars. And now the stars come to us, Tai Sung replied. The Earth President welcomed the visitors. You come to us as equals, she said, not as masters or servants, but as partners in a new beginning. A tall being with 4 arms stepped forward. I am Kelter of Vex Prime. For 300 years, my world mined resources for the Concorde while our people lived in poverty. Thanks to Earth, we are free. Next came a small floating creature that glowed with soft light. I am Zira of the Lumi Collective. The Concorde took our light crystals and gave us nothing in return. Now we offer our friendship freely to Earth. One by one, representatives shared similar stories. Worlds exploited, people treated as tools, resources stolen. All now free because Earth had shown the Concorde could be defeated. Elkin, the Navari scientist, was the last to speak. Not all Navari supported the Concorde's methods, he said. Many of us are ashamed of what was done in our name. We ask to join your alliance not as leaders, but as equals seeking redemption. The president nodded. All are welcome who come in peace and respect. For 3 days, they talked and planned. A new alliance took shape, not based on power or control, but on mutual benefit. They called it the Stellar Cooperative. On the final day, Vetric was brought before the gathering. The once proud Grand Marshal looked defeated. You have destroyed the order of the galaxy, he said bitterly. Chaos will follow. Tai Sung stepped forward. not chaos. Change. The Concorde's order was built on exploitation. Ours will be built on cooperation. What will you do with me? Vectric asked. You will return to your people, Yuna said. Tell them what you've seen. Tell them there is a better way. After the meetings ended, Tai Sung and his team stood on the roof of the building, looking at the night sky where alien ships could be seen as bright points of light. Why did we hide for so long? Da Hyun asked. With our technology, we could have joined the galaxy years ago and become like the Concorde. Su Jin asked. Power corrupts. If we had revealed ourselves too soon, we might have become the very thing we feared. Jai-ho nodded. We needed time to mature as a species, to learn restraint. And now? Hyunwoo asked. What happens now? Tae-sung looked up at the stars. Now we help build something better, something that can last. Later that night, Yuna sat alone in her office, finalizing the text of the new Stellar Cooperative Charter, a document that would guide relations between worlds for generations to come. She paused in her work and smiled as a thought occurred to her. Earth's greatest weapon had never been its advanced technology or hidden fleets. It had been patience, the wisdom to wait and watch, the restraint to hide their power until it was truly needed. The Concorde had seen humans as primitive and thought them easy prey. That mistake had cost them an empire. As ships from a dozen worlds prepared to return home, carrying news of the new alliance, Yuna added a final line to the Charter's preamble. True civilization is measured not by the power one wields, but by the wisdom with which that power is used. Earth's time of hiding was over. Its time of leadership had just begun.